Hello and welcome to Nullitaire Gaming, where we play games with 0 players, or in other words, we play bots against one another. And in this series, we are playing Imperium, both classics and legends, designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turdsey. We've been playing a tournament, putting all the factions up against each other in a single elimination style tournament. Let's see who wins in the end. We're pretty far into the tournament at this point. So if you haven't seen any videos in this series, I recommend going back and watching it from the beginning. I'll put a link in the description of this video to the entire playlist, so you can go back and start from the beginning if you like. So let's look at the bracket as it stands right now. Here it is. So we've played the first and second round. So there's only 4 factions remaining: the Egyptians, the Atlanteans, the Macedonians, and the Celts. So in this video we're going to play the Egyptians against the Atlanteans, and they will move into, whoever wins this round will move into the final round. Okay, let's set it up. Okay, the game is set up and ready to go. As usual, I've determined the first player randomly. Turned out to be the Atlanteans this time, so they'll be the first player. And of course, they have the top row, and that will be their hand. And the Egyptians are second player, so the bottom row will be their hand. And a couple of points. The Atlanteans start out as an empire. That's just the way their nation works. So their dynasty deck is a little bit different. They don't have the full moon card that most nations have to make them into an empire. Okay, so they just have this empire table to begin with. Okay, as usual, I've covered up, using post-it notes here, covered up any other tables so I don't accidentally look at the wrong thing. And, okay, so we can put decks right on top of here to make space a little more efficient. Same thing over here, I've covered up the tables I don't want to look at. Okay, and the Egyptians work as normal. They start out as barbarians. They have a full moon card and all that. So they work in the normal manner. All right, looks like we're ready to go. So the Atlanteans are up first. Here we go. So the Atlanteans roll a 2 and come out swinging with some unrest. Okay, so that just goes to the unrest pile. And then we have a region, Hesperides. Okay, so let's take a look at their chart. As always, we go down the chart, find the first icon or title that matches the card we're looking at. Okay, so region is right here. And do what it says. Exile the card from the market and play this region. As always, when bots exile cards from the market, they always just take the first card on the left that has no tokens on it. So in this case, they will exile the Phoenicians. The next card is Flood, which is an Empire card. There are no other markings on it. So going down the list, looking for Empire. There we go. Okay, if able, history a played region to acquire any. Otherwise, break through for a region, put this card into history. Okay, yeah, I remember this. From the last time we played this spot. The way this is worded is just very strange. So, like, my theory is that this wasn't edited properly, and so I don't know. The way this is worded just doesn't fit in with the syntax of the other of other instructions. For example, to acquire any. I mean, that's usually written like this: acquire, and then you have all these symbols with slashes in between. That means acquire any of these cards. So acquire any is supposed to mean the same as that. I mean, I think. So this is telling us, if able, take a region in play and put it into history in order to acquire any card in the market. And yes, they can do that. They just put a region into play so they can put it into history now and acquire a card. And of course, as always, the bots always acquire the card in the market that's worth the most. In this case, they can acquire any card, so the cards worth the most right now are these two civilized cards, Exports and Mercenaries. They're both worth 5 because we always treat asterisks as 5, plus the 1 progress each, so they're both worth 6. Okay, so that's a tie. First tiebreaker is the most tokens. They're tied in that regard as well. Second tiebreaker is the lowest slot, so furthest to the left. Therefore, they will acquire exports, which means they will take the unrest under it as well, put it right on top of their deck with the unrest on top. Last card for the Atlanteans is Prosperity, which is named on their table right here. Okay, so gain 1 progress per played region. Oh, they don't have any anymore. You may draw a card. Okay, so these bots, again, I've mentioned this in previous videos, of course, were made for solitaire play. So you refers to the solitaire player. Playing Nullitaire, of course, we don't have a solitaire player. So you always means the other bot in our readings of these charts. And saying that they may draw a card. Well, bots don't have hands in the usual sense, so drawing a card doesn't make clear sense for them. So when a bot is told that they may draw a card, instead they just discard a card. Excuse me, from the top of their deck. Okay, so what's going to happen here is simply that the Egyptians are going to discard a card. That's it. That's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans, so they'll place progress on the 2 card in the market. They'll slide this card down, and they will refill their hand. Well, yeah, Atlanteans, well, we can do floods too. Okay, so the Egyptians roll a 2, and they start with Flood of the Nile, which doesn't have any markings on it at all, interestingly. So going down their chart now, we get all the way to Other. Okay, if able, abandon a water, I guess, to acquire, that would be a region that has a water icon, to acquire a civilized or uncivilized. Well, they don't have any regions in play, so they can't do that. Otherwise, discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck and gain 2 materials, and then this card will go into history. Okay, so they'll do the second thing, discard the top 2 cards, gain 2 materials, and then Flood of the Nile will go into history. Next card is Glory. Also doesn't have any icons on it, but this is a named card in their chart. Okay, if able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fan card. Nope, can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a civilized card. Yeah, they can do that. There's exactly 1 in the market, Mercenaries, so they will acquire it. Next card is Prosperity, which is also named on their chart. Okay, discard the top card from the bot deck. Gain 1 material and 1 population per played region. They don't have any. And the Atlanteans will discard the top card of their deck. Last card for the Egyptians is a region, Lower Nile. So, region. Gain 1 population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile Shrine. Okay, that's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They'll place progress on the 2 card and refill their hand. They didn't quite have enough cards to finish refilling their hand, therefore, they'll take a card off the Dynasty deck and shuffle. It's the Battle of the Floods. The Atlanteans roll a 3 and play Flood, which is an Empire card. Okay, so if able, history a played region to acquire any card. Otherwise, break through for a region and put this card into history. Okay, they can't put a played region into history because they don't have any in play. So they're going to break through for a region. Okay, when bots break through, they take whatever's in the market if they can, and they only go to the decks if the card they're looking for is not available in the market. So there are 2 regions in the market. The one worth the most is Fortunate Isle here because it has 2 progress tokens on it. So they will take that one. Next card for the Atlanteans is Unrest. And then, more Unrest. And then, oh, another flood. Okay, so again, they don't have any regions in play, so they'll break through for a region and put the flood into history. The only region in the market now is mountain, so they'll take that. That's the end of the Atlantean turn. They'll place progress on the 3 card and refill their hand. The Egyptians now roll a 1 and play mercenaries, a civilized card, and empire. Okay, they don't have either of those symbols here, so other. If able, abandon a water region. Okay, they do have a water region in play now, the Lower Nile, to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. Otherwise, do that. Put this card into history. Okay, so they're going to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. So there are 3 cards they could take that are civilized or uncivilized. The one worth the most is exports. They will take that. They had to abandon the Lower Nile region to do that, so that's now in discard. Okay, next card for the Egyptians is Egyptian Incursion, which is an attack and barbarian card. Okay, I have barbarian here. If able, spend 2 population to acquire a region. No, they only have 1 population. Otherwise, if able, spend 2 materials to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. Yes, they can do that. They have 2 materials. Okay, otherwise, discard the top card from the bot deck. Put this card in history. Okay, so they'll spend the 2 materials to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card, and then this card will go into history. Okay, once again, there are 3 options. Urban development is worth the most. Next card is a region, Nile Valley. So they're going to gain a population, play the region, and exile a card from the market. They will exile the Greeks. And we have another region, Red Land. So same thing. Gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile town. It's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They place progress on the 1 card, and they'll refill their hand. The Atlanteans roll a 6 to start their turn, so they're going to play all of their cards. Beginning with exports, which is an attack and empire card. Okay, attack is first here. Yep. Okay, acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall a region. So the card in the market worth the most right now is this tributary here, Chin. So they will acquire that. They will steal a progress from the Egyptians, and then they will force the Egyptians to recall Red Land, which they have just recently put into play. That means they'll put it back on top of their deck. Next card is a region, Mountain. So they will exile a card from the market and play this region. That means they're going to exile River and play this card. Next card is another region, Fortunate Isle, but interestingly this has the barbarian symbol, and that comes up first for the Atlanteans, so they're not going to play this like a region. So they would discard the top card of the bot deck, return an unrest from discard if able, and this card will go into history. As soon as the Atlanteans discarded a card, of course there was unrest because they had just acquired the Chin tributary, which came with that. And so Fortunate Isle will now go into history. Next card is Unrest. And then last card for the Atlanteans will be the Atlantean Fleet, which is an attack and a empire card. Okay, so I think we're going to get attack again. Yes. Okay. Acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall a region. So the Atlanteans will acquire mercenaries. They will steal this last progress the Egyptians have, and force the Egyptians to recall the only region they have in play. Okay, that's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans. They don't place any progress because they rolled a 6. They'll simply refill their hand. Didn't quite have enough cards, so take a card off the Dynasty deck and shuffle. The Egyptians' turn now. They roll a 5 and start with Advance, which is a barbarian card. Okay. So here, if able, spend 2 population. Yeah, they can do that to acquire a region. Otherwise, do that. Otherwise, do that. And then put the card into history. Okay, so they'll spend their 2 population to acquire a region and then this card will go into history. They will acquire Highlands. Next card is Unrest. And then Urban Development. A Civilized and Empire card. Okay. Don't see anything on here. Okay, so Other. If able, abandon a water region to acquire a civilized or uncivilized card. No, they don't have any regions in play. Otherwise, discard the top 2 cards from the bot deck and gain 2 materials. They can do that. And this card will go into history. Last card for the Egyptians is some more Unrest. Okay, that's it for the Egyptians. They will place Progress on the 5 card in the market. Slide that card down and refill their hand. The Atlanteans roll a 5, and they start with some Unrest. Okay. Next is Mercenaries, which is an Empire and Civilized card. Okay, looks like we're going to get Empire here. Yes, okay. If able, history a played region, yeah, they can do that to acquire any card. Okay, they'll do that, and then this card will go into history. They will acquire the Amphitheater. Next card is the Chin, a tributary card. It's also pinned, which I think will be the relevant point here. Yeah, pinned. Okay, acquire any card, put this card into history. They will take Urban Development. Last card for the Atlanteans is Elysian Fields, a region. And so, yeah, it's also pinned and Empire, but regions first. So exile a card from the market and play the region. They will exile Mysticism. That's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans. They'll place Progress on the 5 card and refill their hand. The Egyptians start their turn by rolling a 1, and then they play Red Land, a region card. So they'll gain a population, play the region, and exile a card. They will exile the city. Next card is Unrest. Then Egyptian Hieroglyphics, which is a pinned card. So here, gain a population, discard the top card from the bot deck, and put this card in history. Last card for the Egyptians is Unrest. Okay, that's the end of their turn, so they'll place Progress on the 1 card, and they will refill their hand. I don't think they have enough cards, however. No, they don't. Okay, so another card from the Dynasty deck, and they will shuffle. So the Atlanteans roll a 6 again to start their turn, and they start with the Atlantean Fleet, which is an attack and Empire card. So attack is first, acquire any card, steal a Progress, and force the Egyptians to recall their only region. So in the market, both Onager and Ionians are worth 3 points each. So the first tiebreaker is most tokens, so that means they'll take Onager. The Egyptians don't have any Progress to steal, but they do have a region in play that they are now forced to recall. Next card is Unrest, and then Urban Development, which is Civilized and Empire. I think Empire is what we're going to get. Yep. If able, history a played region. They can do that to acquire any card, and then this card will go into history. Okay, so they'll acquire Ionians. Next card is Unrest, and last card is Amphitheater, which is Civilized, Pinned, and Empire. Okay, so pinned. Acquire any card, put this card into history. The 2 cards in the market worth the most are Education, which has a printed value of 2, and Cape, which has no printed value but has 2 Progress tokens. So they're both worth 2. And first tiebreaker is most tokens, so I'll take Cape. That's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans. They don't place any Progress because of the 6. They'll just refill their hand. The Egyptians now roll a 2 to start their turn, and they begin with Exports, which is an attack and Empire and Civilized card. But they don't care about any of that. Yeah, okay, so other. If able, abandon a water region. Nope, they have a hard time keeping regions in play with the Atlanteans around. So, otherwise discard 2 cards from the bot deck and gain 2 materials, and this card will go into history. Okay, next card is Unrest. And then the Kushites. Well, the Kushites. I think that's a typo. Okay, so this is a tributary and a barbarian. Okay, so barbarian, I think. Yeah. If able, spend 2 population. Yes, they can do that. To acquire a region. Otherwise do that, otherwise do that. And then this card will go into history. There are 2 regions in the market, both worth 0, and both with no tokens, so they'll take the one furthest on the left. Last card for the Egyptians is Highlands, a region. Okay. Gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile the Jade Mask. That's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They'll place Progress on the 2 card and refill their hand. I don't think they have enough cards to quite do it. No, 1 short. Alright, so another card from the Dynasty deck, and shuffle up. The Atlanteans start their turn by rolling a 3, and they play Cape, a region card. So they will exile a card from the market and play the region. They will exile the Persians. Next card is Unrest. Then more Unrest. And then Onager, which is Attack and Empire. Okay, Attack comes first. Acquire any card, steal a Progress. The Egyptians still don't have any, but they do have a region in play that they'll be forced to recall. They will acquire Education, and the Egyptians have to recall the Highlands. That's the end of the Atlantean turn. They'll place Progress on the 3 card and refill their hand. The Egyptian turn now, they roll a 2 and start with Glory. I believe it's a named card here, yeah. If able, abandon 3 regions. That's funny. The Atlanteans would never let him get 3 whole regions in play. To gather the top, to gain the top fan card. Okay, they can't do that. Otherwise, if able, acquire a civilized card. Yeah, they can do that. There's 2 civilized cards, no, 3, sorry, civilized cards in the market. The civilized icon down here. These 2 are both worth 2, but this one has a token on it, so they'll take that one. Here's a region, Lower Nile. So gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile Pharmacy. Next card is Prosperity, which is named on their chart. Discard the top card from the bot deck. Gain a material and a population per played region. They do have a region in play, surprisingly. And the Atlanteans will discard a card. There's another region, Redland. Okay, so gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile Elders. So much for the Egyptian turn. They place Progress on the 2 card in the market, and they will refill their hand. Once again, I don't think they have enough cards. Oh, they do actually, just enough. Okay. Back to the Egyptians now, sorry, the Atlanteans now. They start with a 4 and play Ionians, a tributary first. There's no other icons on it but tributary. Okay, I don't think they care about that. Okay, so other. Place the top card from the Dynasty deck into the discard pile, and this card will go into history. Okay, so top card from the Dynasty deck, a discard pile, Ionians to history. Next card is Unrest, and then Education, which is Empire and Civilized. Okay, I think it'll be Civil Empire here. If able, history, a played region, yes. To acquire any card, okay. Otherwise, break through, no. Put this card into history. Okay, so they'll do the first thing. Take their region, put it into history, acquire any card. And they will take the Axumites. Next card is Exports. It's an attack card. I believe that will be their priority, yes. Acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall a region. So there's not much of value in the market right now. The thing worth the most is port here, which is worth 2. So they will acquire that. They'll steal a single progress that the Egyptians have and force them to recall a region. That's the end of the Atlantean turn. They place progress on the 4 card. Slide that down and refill their hand. The Egyptians roll a 5 and begin with a region, marsh. And so they will gain a population, play the region, and exile a card. They will exile steppe. Next card for them is city, which is pinned, and civilized and uncivilized. Okay, so pinned. Gain a population, discard the top card of the bot deck, and put this card into history. Next card is a region, highlands. And so they're going to gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile city. Last card for the Egyptians is another region, Nile Valley, so same thing again. Get a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile Oracle. That's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. They place progress on the 5 card in the market. Slide that card down, and they would refill their hand, but they're out of cards. So take the top card from the Dynasty deck, and this is their full moon card, Unification. So once that goes in the discard pile, they now become an empire. Okay, back to the Atlanteans' turn. They roll a 4 and start with Prosperity, which is named on their chart here. Gain a progress per played region. Well, they don't have any regions in play, actually, so that won't do anything. But the Egyptians will discard a card. Okay, so this does do something, and therefore they will follow this instruction. So all that happens is that the Egyptians discard a card. Next card is Unrest, and then Port. A civilized and uncivilized card, and also pinned, which is, I think, going to be the issue here. Okay, acquire any card, put this card into history. They will acquire the Hittites. Last card for the Atlanteans is a tributary, Axumites. Don't think they have tributary on their list, so I'm going to go all the way to other. Place the top card from the Dynasty deck into the discard pile and put this card into history. Okay, so top card from the Dynasty deck, and the Axumites go to history. Okay, into the turn for the Atlanteans, so place progress on the 4 card and refill their hand. They didn't quite have enough cards to get there, so they're going to get another Dynasty card as well and shuffle. The Egyptians roll a 3 and begin with Unrest. Get rid of that. Next card is their Unification card, which doesn't have any symbols on it at all. So I guess that means we're going to go all the way to other. Okay, discard the top 2 cards in the bot deck and put this card into history. Next card is Prosperity. I should have mentioned we're now looking at the Egyptians' empire table, so it's different now. So Prosperity isn't mentioned on here anymore, so it'll be other. Discard the top 2 cards in the bot deck, put this card into history. Okay, last card for the Egyptians is Glory, and surprisingly, they do have more than 3 regions in play. The Atlanteans have not managed to take them all out of play. So they have 4 in play, as a matter of fact. So if able to abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card, they will do that. So they will abandon the last 3 regions they played by discarding them. And they will gain the top fame card for doing so. That's the end of their turn. They'll place progress on the 3 card in the market, and they would refill their hand, but they only have 1 card, that fame card they just picked up, which will go right there. So they'll take another Dynasty card and shuffle. Back to the Atlanteans, they roll a 2 and start with some Unrest. And then play the Hittites, a tributary card, which I don't think they have in their chart, no. Okay, other. Place the top card from the Dynasty deck into the discard pile, and this card goes into history. Okay, so Dynasty card into the discard pile, and the Hittites go to history. Next card is a region, Thule, which is both also pinned and Empire, but region is first. Exile a card from the market, play the region. So they will exile Metropolis. Next card is Exports, which is an attack card, and Empire. I believe attack is first for them. Yep, right there. Okay, acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall their only region. So they will acquire the Celts. The Egyptians don't have any progress to steal, but they can recall this region. Okay, that's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans. So they'll place progress on the 2 card in the market and refill their hand. The Egyptians roll a 3 and start with a region, red land. And so, region, gain a population, play the region, exile a card from the market. They will exile coinage. Here's that fame card, glorious. Okay, fame. Gain a progress, spend all materials to gain the same number of population. Okay, well they have 5 materials, so they'll trade them in for population. And put this card into history. Next card is Egyptian Legacy, which is an attack and empire card. Okay, so attack. If able, acquire a region or a tributary. Yes, they can do that. Otherwise, gain 2. You discard a card and take unrest. Okay, so they're going to acquire a region or a tributary. It's going to be a region because there are no tributaries in the market. And they'll force the Atlanteans to discard a card and take some unrest. So there are 2 regions in the market. They're both worth the same. They both have the same number of tokens, so they take the one furthest on the left, which is Coast. The Atlanteans discarded a card, and now they must take some unrest. Last card for the Egyptians is Marsh, a region. So, gain a population, play the region, exile a card. They exile Jade Mask. The Egyptians end their turn by placing progress on the 3 card in the market and refilling their hand. The Atlanteans now roll a 3 to begin and start with some unrest. And more unrest. Okay, and Onager, an attack card. And Empire, but attack is first for them. Acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall a region. Both Assyrians and Monument are worth 3 right now, but Monument has more tokens, so they will take that. They will steal some progress from the Egyptians and force them to recall their latest region. Last card for the Atlanteans is a region, Themyscira. Themyscira. Interesting name. Okay, so exile the card from the market and play this card. They will exile the Assyrians. Okay, the main deck is now depleted, so that triggers the end game, which means we will finish this round. The Atlanteans will complete their turn, the Egyptians will have their turn, and then we'll have one more round. One more turn for the Atlanteans, one more turn for the Egyptians, and then that'll be the end of the game. We'll see who wins at that point. But the Egyptians are done with their, the Atlanteans are done with their turn now, so they'll place progress on the 3 card and refill their hand. The Egyptian turn now, they roll a 3 and play unrest first, and then Coast, a region. So they will gain a population, play the region, and exile a card. They exile Archipelago. Next card is another region, Nile Valley. So same thing, gain population, play the region, exile a card. So to exile a card, they skip over any with tokens, so they will exile City. Last card for the Egyptians is Glory. And interestingly, they do have 3 regions in play. They have just enough to do this again. So they'll abandon all 3 of them to gain the top fame card. So they've discarded all 3 of their regions, and they'll take the top fame card. Well, that's the end of the Egyptians' turn. They place progress on the 3 card in the market and refill their hand. Didn't quite have enough cards to refill their hand, so another card from the Dynasty deck, and they'll shuffle. Okay, time for the last round. So each nation will get 1 more turn, and then that'll be it. We'll see who the winner is. So the Atlanteans roll a 5 for their turn, and they play Celts first, a tributary, also an attack card, which I believe will be their priority. Okay, acquire any card, steal a progress, and force the Egyptians to recall a card, a region. They will acquire agriculture. Then they will steal this progress from the Egyptians. The Egyptians don't have any regions in play to recall. Next card is unrest, and then monument, which is barbarian and pinned. Okay, barbarian is first. Discard the top card of the bot deck. Return an unrest from discard if able, and then put this card into history. Of course, they just acquired a card, so the top card that they discarded was unrest, so they get rid of that automatically. And this card will go to history. And the last card for the Atlanteans. Boring. Unrest. Okay, so that's the end of the turn for the Atlanteans. They'll place progress on the 5 card in the market, and they will refill their hand. If they have enough cards to do it, they won't get any more Dynasty cards, and they do. Okay, so that's the end for the Atlanteans. The Egyptians start their last turn by rolling a 3, and they play Lower Nile, which is a region. So they will gain a population, play the region, and exile a card. They will exile art. Next card is a fame card, great. So they will gain a progress, spend all materials to gain the same number of population. They don't have any materials, so that won't do anything. So just gain progress, and this card will go into history. Next card is a region, Highlands, and so that means gain population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile city. Last card for the game, the Egyptians play red land, which means they get a population, play the region, exile a card. They will exile religion. Okay, that's the end of the turn for the Egyptians. Let's just finish it out for the sake of completeness. We put the progress token there. As long as they have at least 4 cards in hand in their deck, they won't get any more Dynasty cards, and they do. Okay, so that is the end of the game. Let's find out who won. So as usual, the way I like to resolve the winner is, rather than just adding up all victory points and comparing and see who has the most, I like to just match them up 1 for 1, and whoever has any victory points left in the end is the winner. So let's resolve the tokens first. The Atlanteans ended up with 16 progress, where the Egyptians had only 1, because the Atlanteans kept stealing it from them. Okay, so we can match it up 1 for 1 there. Get rid of those. Okay, and these population tokens are worth 1 victory point per 10. So these 20 right here are worth 2 victory points each, 2 victory points in total. So I'll give 3 back to the Atlanteans there. Let me get that. Here we go. All right. So that resolves that. And then this 1 population isn't worth anything. Okay, so that's it for the tokens. The Atlanteans have 13 left. Okay, so I found 13 victory points worth of cards in the Egyptians' deck to counteract these 13. So we have these 2 fame cards. Question mark cards are always worth whatever the highest listed value is. So this is worth 6. This one's worth 6. And another 1 gives them 13. Okay, so that takes care of all that. So now we'll put the rest of their cards together, and we'll see who has the more victory points. So as usual, I've put their cards together in 2 columns, and we'll go down the columns, matching victory points together, and whoever runs out of victory points first will be the loser. Okay, Atlanteans on the left, Egyptians on the right, here we go. Okay, so matching up 1 for 1 here, these are all asterisk cards. Remember, asterisks are always worth 5. So we're matching these up together. Oh, those are even the same card, interesting. Who will run out of cards first? It's the Egyptians. And it's not even close. Okay, that's no surprise. I mean, the Atlanteans are just so powerful. It's kind of absurd. They're constantly taking the most valuable cards in the market. They're constantly forcing their opponents to recall their regions, and constantly stealing from their opponents. So, what do you expect? Okay, so the Atlanteans win by 42. This is 42 victory points here. Okay, there you have it. Another blowout for the Atlanteans. They defeat the Egyptians. All right, there we have it. The Atlanteans have taken that semi-final round and now head into the final game. They will go up against the winner of Macedonia versus the Celts. Can either of those stop the Atlanteans? Well, we'll have to see. Okay, so in the next video in this series, we'll have the Macedonians versus the Celts. I hope you'll join me then. Till then.